The skill that I believe one needs to learn is a version of leadership, which is mastering influence, which is sales, the ability to communicate, the ability to lead others. I'm a seventh grade dropout, bro. From that point, from October 2008 to December 2009, I made $1 million.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Growth House Podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Ray. I'm here with a very special guest, my man, Ryan. Ryan, it's a pleasure. I'm excited for this conversation, man.
Absolutely, Jesse. I love what you're doing, bro. Thank you so much for inviting me on your show. And I am excited to impact and make a difference for your audience.
Absolutely. And what I love is we have guests on our show, but the only guests that I want are people with amazing energy. And before we even started recording, we were just like, we got to stop, man. Too many gems. I'm hearing too much of your story. We just got to hit record. And I just know that we're going to stay connected after this. So let's dive into it. Ryan, before we go back, and I want to hear, you share your story a lot, and it's an amazing story of overcoming a lot of different things. But I want to hear, what is life like right now? And then we'll take a step back.
Yeah. And I think something that's really important that you mentioned that I think is good for the listeners is this theme that you talked about, energy. Everything is energy, right? The law of energy states energy can't be created nor destroyed. It only transfer forms. And I've never met anybody in my life with low energy that crushes it. And so just notice, as soon as we got on, our energy started elevating. We're like, and so I think it's cool, man. And so who you surround yourself with is so important. You want to see where you're going in life. Look at some of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and it's going to give you a good indicator what you're up to. And going back, growing up, both my parents were drug addicts. That was the life I was exposed to. Being a criminal, being a liar, being a manipulator, taking advantage of people to do whatever I needed to do to get my drug was what my parents taught me. And so there was definitely a time in my life, Jesse, where I had so much guilt and shame for the things that I did. And until I actually dug in and did some work on myself, that stuff weighed on me for a very, very, very long time, man. I got sober when I was 16 years old. And so that's really when my life changed for the better. 2001, October 8th, 2001, I was in a high-speed chase. We flipped a car. I was pronounced dead at the scene. I was trauma-hawked to Delray Medical Center. And clearly God had a different plan for me, but I was still facing 25 to life. At this point, 16 years old, 21 felonies, in and out of juvie, just an absolute menace. And that was the first time when I truly felt powerless. I truly felt like there's nothing I can do. There's no getting out of this one. I am screwed. But I think that was the best thing that happened to me because that's really when I found God. That's really when I was able to give my life over to God. And, 90 days in juvie, the judge gave me a miraculous another chance. And that's when my sobriety journey began.
I mean, that's a whole story right there. And obviously I know more of your background. It's just insane that a lot of people, I guess, would say, man, why is this stuff happening to me? And it seems like you flipped that script for sure. It's no, this happened for me. I'm going to get out of this. I mean, obviously probably God still plays a big role in your life now. Has that been something that's kind of been a big part of your life?
100%, bro. So I just got a tattoo on my neck, Son of God. One of the things so I'm in a 12-step program. I've been in that program for 23 years. This October, I'll have 24 years. Very active. I still do 3 meetings a week. I still have step group on Thursday night with my guys. And so success doesn't happen overnight. And I'm doing the same thing I did when I first got in recovery that I'm doing now. And that's why I have the continued success. But God is everything for me, man. He is my North Star. I live a life of practice to do His will over my will. And that is not an easy thing to do, but that is something that I intend to do every single day of my life.
Man, I love it. We can obviously dive more into that, but I want to give the listeners more of that story. So you're facing 25 to life at 16 years old?
Yep.
Wow. And then what happens? How do you find, start doing business? Or what was that transition from, 16, you get sober to, where you are now?
Yeah. And what was interesting, dude, at that moment, both my parents were very absent in my childhood. My father and mother divorced at 6, right after my sister passed away. And my mom was in very abusive relationships with men. And so the model of my world, what I thought was normal, was men abusing women, my mom accepting that man back in her life, my father abusing me, and me being on the streets. So that was my exposure. That was what I thought was what life was about. And so through my juvenile years, I was always out on the streets. I was always, hanging out with the kids in the neighborhood, doing whatever I could to get high, to try to fit in, to try to feel accepted. I literally remember at like 14 years old, like one of my good friends were like, dude, why do you keep hanging out with these kids? And I was like, well, at least they respect me. At least I think I even said love. I don't know exactly, but it just came to my mind because I didn't get that at home. I didn't get that, and built this void inside of me where I just never felt good enough. I just never felt accepted or felt loved. And so when that accident happened, my mom actually got sober. My mom got sober and she came into the juvenile detention facility. And she was crying and in recovery, they say it's attraction, not promotion. And my mom is gorgeous, but I never really saw my mom this way because my mom was a crack addict. My mom did pills and she was on heroin and all the different things. I was like, oh my God, I was like blown away how incredible my mom was. And she was like, baby, I got you in here. I'm going to get you out. And I was just like, there's just nothing you could do. I got 21 felonies. I robbed a store with a handgun when I was 14. I have grand thefts. I have burglary. Like there's nothing you can do. And she convinced the judge and the state's attorney and my probation officer to give me one more chance. And bro, the void that I had missing my whole life just was satisfied because my mom was finally there for me. I finally got to see mommy, and she stayed sober for 5 years with me, my first 5 years of sobriety. And then she relapsed, bro. When I was 5 years sober, my dad was diagnosed with cancer. My stepdad, he moved on. And so like that whole childhood trauma, that traumatic scene was relived at 5 years into sobriety. And so, your past perceived voids create your future perceived values. And so whatever void you experience or embedded into your nervous system in those younger years is what's showing up today. And so that was re-triggered, that void of like not being good enough, not being important. Like, what am I going to do? And bro, I then literally put recovery to the side and pursued success and greed and women. That was like my new drug. And I became a commodity broker. So from like 2007 to 2012, I was on the phones, cold calling, doing commodities, putting people in aggressive investments. I was preying on people's greed and ego. And yeah, that came to a screeching halt. 2012, I got sued by the FTC for $10 million.
Damn.
Yeah. So that was rock bottom.
So 16 years old. What year was that?
2001.
2001. And then your mom kind of helps you, get back on your feet, or at least the inspiration to get you back on your feet, more straight and narrow. And then you get into commodities trading, but just not in integrity. And then 2012, FTC gets after you.
Yeah. I remember like it was yesterday. I was sitting in my office and I looked out my window and there was a lady that walked in with a box. It was like a whole big ass box. And she drops the papers on my assistant's desk. She signs the paper. I walk over and it said Federal Trade Commission. I was like, I'm done. And I knew it. So I go home.
So did you know before, like, all right, I'm doing something that's a little shady, or you're like, I don't care. I'm just going to quote unquote win and get money.
I mean, I had that mindset for sure. Like I'm going to get mine and I'm winning. But I also knew in the back of my mind, like, I had the conversation, right? Like my friends and the people that were in the business with me, we quote unquote were like, all right, like what's worst case scenario? Worst case scenario is you make a ton of money, they sue you and you move on. And so like, this was like my money grab. Like I grew up poor. My dad was a construction worker. My mom was a nobody. I grew up in the ghetto. So like in my mind, I'm like, all right, I came from hell. Like you're telling me a little lawsuit? Like I just beat 25 to life. Like, okay, a lawsuit, who cares? So at that time, I didn't understand the magnitude of like what I was up to, because like where I came from and where I was at, I felt like was a significant improvement. Like I'm like, this is a hell of a lot better. I'm not robbing houses. I'm just putting people in investments that they understand the risk. It is greedy and I prey on their greed. I mean, so like morally and ethically today, I would never do something like that. But at that time in my life, it didn't seem like that big of a deal, and I knew I could probably make some money and worst case scenario, I get sued and I just move on. Well, that worst case scenario happened, bro. And that was probably one of the most devastating experience. That was actually more devastating than facing 25 to life.
Why do you say that? Because I mean, obviously 25 to life is like really serious and intense.
Yeah, but at 16, I was like high and drunk the whole time. I didn't really have any awareness of what the heck I was up to. I woke up and I was just like, I just woke up out of a dream, and it was like a bad dream. And then like I got out of it and I was like, oh, okay, wow, I've never used drugs again. So I knew like the 12-step program was the solution. Well, the 12-step program I was in didn't stop me from doing the commodities. So I'm like sitting here like feeling defenseless. Like, what do I do? And then I'm sober, right? And then it's like my name's on the front page of the newspaper talking about like I'm a scam artist and all these different things. I get on the phone with my dad. He's like, dude, like, what are you doing? And so like everybody that had respect for me lost all respect for me. So I had a tainted name. And remember, my void is that I want you to like me. I want to be loved. I want to be appreciated. And everybody hated me, bro. So like it was like double trouble, dude. I was crushed. And then I go home and my fiance is like, yo, I'm out. See ya. Like, you're not the guy I married. You're not the guy I'm engaged to. And I was like, what? Sued by the FTC. All my assets are frozen. I go home. Fiance is like, yo, I'm out. My dad's like, I don't know who you are. Nobody likes me. Bro, it was bottom for me.
How do you not go back to your past vices in that moment? What was the, factor that you're like, no, I'm not going to go back?
Well, what I've experienced, Jesse, is there's two types of motivators in life, right? There's like pain and pleasure, right? And the pain of what I experienced at that moment was so great, dude, that I was just like, I never, ever, ever am going to go back. I'm never going back. Like, there's just not, like, I don't care if I'm broke for the rest of my life. I'm never, ever, ever going back. And the best thing that happened to me, I met a friend at breakfast in the morning. We had breakfast because he was like talking me off the cliff every day because I was like on suicide watch. And he's like, bro, you got to go do this trauma work. You got to go like find out like the core of all your issues. And so I went to this place called Onsite in Nashville, Tennessee, and it was a 6-day retreat where they just dive into like the inner child trauma work. And I started to unpack everything. And I was like, and I got to see it. I was like, holy, like, this is why I'm doing it. Like, these are my core issues. That was actually the catalyst that got me into the business that I'm in now, which is We Level Up, which is a drug and alcohol rehab business. We help people with mental health illnesses. We deal with trauma. We deal with bipolar disorders, substance abuse, alcohol addiction. And that was actually what exposed me to the life that I have now. And so today I look back and I'm like, thank God that happened to me, because that's what got me here. During that time, bro, I didn't care if I lived or died. Like, it didn't matter. I was just so devastated, bro. Like, I hated myself. Like, I literally hated myself. And if you look at pictures, dude, I was like 216 pounds. I was kind of sloppy. I like didn't dress good. Like, I was just miserable. Like, you can see it. Like, there was something going on with me. And so, yeah, the pain, bro, the pain was a huge motivator for me.
I want to ask you a question because, I think a lot of people maybe in the last few years have heard of like your inner child and trauma work and childhood trauma. Some people just ignore it, right? And people have become successful and ignored that stuff and didn't do the deep work. For someone like, obviously you had a very traumatic upbringing and a lot of things have happened to you. For someone that maybe didn't have as traumatic of an experience growing up or as a child, do you still suggest people go and do that work?
100%, bro. It's like, this is the truth, right? There's the formative years of our lives where you are developing, right? Your like nervous system is developing, your thoughts, your emotions, your brain is developing, and you don't really fully develop your brain until you're 25. And so really between the ages of like 1 and 25, you're evolving. Your emotions are evolving. How you feel about yourself is evolving. Your character is evolving. And if you grew up with parents that were absent, then you have that void inside of you. And most entrepreneurs are striving for success because they're running away from the void of not good enough, or they need to prove themselves. And so that's why they get to the place of money and they don't feel fulfilled. They get to the place of success and they're like, why do I still feel empty? They got the house, they got the car, they got the women, they got the watches, they got the jewelry. And they're like, why am I still feeling so miserable? And so thank God I had the extreme trauma, because I didn't have a choice. Like, I had to do this to survive. And so now that I've done it and gone down this path, that's why I am a speaker now, and I do the coaching and I do the events, because I want to unlock their freedom, because money doesn't equal fulfillment. Like, how you feel about yourself is what fulfillment and happiness really looks like. Like, the quality of your life is based on the quality of how you feel. And that's based on your perception of your experience. You mentioned something earlier, things happening to me versus for me. That's a shift in perspective. And so knowing what I know, I just can't sit back and be quiet write about it because like I know the core issues of why somebody's so there's cause and effect, right? Like the cause of what you went through is why you're experiencing the symptom today. Avoidance, cheating, porn, gambling, using drugs, trying to make money, trying to make more money. Money's not enough. 10 cars, 20 cars, 8 houses, more. You're running from something.
So true. It's so funny because you mentioned a couple of things that got my wheels turning. Recently, people have asked me like, why are you so obsessed with like building community? Like, why are you really doing it? And I had to like take a step back, and I personally haven't really dove deep into like, the childhood trauma and things that have happened in my past. And I've become more, let's just say, very interested to actually dive down that journey because I'm like, wow, I actually love community because I've never felt a sense of family. And so I feel like I'm creating now my own chosen family. And that's actually why I do it. And I remember looking at my group at one of my masterminds. I'm like, you guys are my family, and I almost teared up. And so it's just so interesting that I put it off. I think a lot of people put it off until something drastic happens. But now I'm just realizing, man, this actually is making me have different unlocks in my life where I'm able to relate to more people. And I just love how you're so vulnerable and sharing your stories. I just want to say I appreciate that. And you being out there and like speaking is just so amazing. So you're hit rock bottom. And then how did you get to We Level Up?
So I actually at Onsite, one of the exercises was to like dream and make things happen. And so when I first got sober, I lived at a halfway house, and that community that you're talking about was at like the foundation of my sobriety. Like my mom was sober. My stepdad married my mom. He was sober. Like he was like a cool badass biker. Like he was like in a sober biker gang, and he was like a fighter, and he was like a cool badass. So like I really liked him, and like he knew everybody in recovery. So like I knew everybody, and like I was like the poster child of AA because I'm sober at 16. I was all over the newspaper. I was like a badass kid, I'm relatively talented at a lot of things that I do. And so like I had this buzz around me, and I was just like, oh my God, like I remember that. And so when I was at Onsite, they were like, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I remembered I was like really good at like helping people and like mentoring people and like leading. So I was like, that's cool. And I was like, I know marketing and sales. And I was like, that's cool. And I was like, well, rehab is literally just putting a brick and mortar in place, and then you need marketing and sales to fill it. I was like, I know that. It's easy. So I found a business that wasn't doing well that needed marketing and sales. My dad put up the seed money in the beginning. I earned my way out of buying him out. He ended up maintaining my partnership. He maintained being a partner with me, but I, bought majority of him out. And then I just scaled the business from then. So 2013 till now, we've been in the business. And so it's been a beautiful journey, bro. And I think what's really cool about what you said, Jesse, that I really appreciate about you, bro, is like, I could feel your heart, right? Like I can feel like why you're doing this. And that was so big for me. And you hear it all the time, right? Like, oh, you got to find your why. You have to access your why. That's true, bro. Like my rehab business got my mom sober, got my dad sober. Like I've changed probably in the time I've been doing this, like 50,000 people have been introduced to recovery, that have been exposed to some level of trauma healing, that have had a seed planted. A lot of them are still sober. And so like when you think of that, like that's why I have this success, is because like my North Star is like, yo, how can I help this person? Like how can I give this person hope? How can I give this person a set of skills and tools that can literally make their life better, and their life gets better, and there's the ripple effect to that. And then all of a sudden, the byproduct of that is success. And I'm like, holy shit, I look around and I have such incredible people around me, like you, building this sick community of like-minded individuals that are striving to impact, to make a difference, to have a ripple effect in the world. And bro, like God just keeps putting like such incredible people on my path, bro. And so like those are like indicators that like I'm on the right path.
100%. Let's dive into this a little bit because, especially people who are just starting off, I run across so many people like, man, I don't know what kind of business I want to do, or I want to do something that's like I'm passionate about. Like, I think we're both almost solving the problems that we had with ourselves, me with community, you with getting sober and realizing that you can now impact other people because you've been impacted. And that's what kind of business you started. What kind of advice do you have to someone who's looking to do a business or start a career with something that they're actually passionate about and they can help other people?
My starting point with like real success was mastering the skill of sales, right? Like that was how I started. I started on a phone. I remember the guy sitting me down and was like, all right, you're going to read this pitch. You're going to dial these numbers. You're going to do $300 a day. If you're the first guy here, last guy to leave, you'll be a millionaire. I was like, wait, all I have to do is dial that and do this for that long and I'm going to be a millionaire. And he's like, yeah. So 9 months in, I want to kill myself. I sold my truck. I moved in with my grandparents. I literally remember I was going to lose everything, bro. I was at the turning point. It was actually October 2008 when the markets were getting smoked. So this is my 9-month mark. And I probably have made like 10, 15 grand at this point, dude. And I remember walking into my boss's office and I was like, dude, like, I don't know if I can do this. And he was like, it's not for everybody. He's like, take the weekend. If you come back on Monday and you don't want to do it, I completely understand. This is a common theme with people in commodities. So that really screwed my ego, right? I was like, all right, asshole, like, I'll show you. I go home and my grandfather was like, oh, it makes sense, Ryan. You're not successful. You didn't go to college. So now like all this shit is like, I'm like, I'm going to show you. So like proving myself actually worked for me at that moment. And so I was so determined, bro. I was like, that's it. I'm done. And I went back into the office on Monday. I didn't say nothing to my boss. And I literally pounded that damn phone harder than I ever pounded, bro. And I was just not at that moment, bro. I went all in. Like I literally went all in energetically, emotionally, mentally. Like I was like, I'll lose it all. Like I'm dying on the mound. You're going to have to drag me out of this thing until I figure this out. And it was like Friday afternoon, bro. It was like 6 o'clock. My boss is like, bro, I'm shutting down the office. The last guy I called picked up the phone and he was like, what's going on with the wheat market? And I was like, I got a buyer. And I was like, oh my God. So I literally just went right in. I was like, I forget his name. What was his name? I don't remember his name, but he was from Iowa. And I was like, my recommendation, invest $10,000. Let's buy wheat. We believe wheat's going to keep running, blah, 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 whatever. He did it. And once I got that yes, bro, once I felt it, dude, I was like, and it literally from that point, from October 2008 to December 2009, I made $1 million. So it was insane, bro. And so the skill that I believe one needs to learn is a version of leadership, which is mastering influence, which is sales, the ability to communicate, the ability to lead others. I'm a 7th grade dropout, bro. But check this out. Here's something crazy. I don't know how I was able to do this. And for the listeners, you can ask yourself, you can wonder about this too. I have a law degree. I have a psychiatric degree. I have an accounting degree. I have a master's levels social workers degree. I have a marketing degree. I have all these degrees and I never went to school. And you're like, well, how the hell do you do that, Ryan? Well, I'm a leader. I hire them, you know? So if you go to school to learn the skill, great. I'll hire you and pay you what you want to get paid and I'll lead you. But that comes with mastering influence. Like if you're not able to influence somebody to follow you or to feel safe with you, then you're never going to get to where you want to be in life, which is why you're successful. Like you're a leader with a mastermind. You're on this podcast. Why? Because you can communicate. You have the skill of influence. You have the skill of building rapport. You have the skill of safety. You have these skills that are so important to have if you want to be successful. And you know this, bro. You have these high level masterminds. Every single person in that room has some level of what we're talking about.
100%. Do you think the skill set needs to come before figuring out your passion? Because I think a lot of people get stuck on, I want to do something I'm passionate about, but they don't have a skill set yet, potentially, to actually do something with their quote unquote passion.
You know, it's interesting because it's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? Like, I mean, so like, here's an analogy that I thought was interesting. Actually, Myron Golden said it, so I'll give credit where credit's due. Myron's like, what do you think creates more impact in the world? A non-for-profit or a business? And everybody's like, non-for-profit. And he's like, yeah, okay, makes sense. He's like, but here's what's interesting. How does a non-for-profit exist? The only way a non-for-profit exists is by a business making money and giving that non-for-profit money. And so when he said that, I was like, oh, that's so interesting. So my statement today would be like, yeah, you have to master a skill, because now that I have the success and I have the money, now I can truly fulfill my passion. Like it just kind of happened for me that recovery brought me to this business and it has overlap, but my true fulfillment and passion is like teaching others, leading others, impacting others, giving somebody an opportunity that they never had before. Well, the only way I can do that is if I have income. The only way that I can do that if I make money. So yeah, you have to learn a skill, and that skill will give you the autonomy to go out there and have your passion and your fulfillment.
100%. Do you think leadership is innate in people? I mean, or do you think it's a learned skill? And if so, how do people learn leadership and influence? Obviously sales is more, it's easier to see like, oh, I can take a sales course, but what about like leadership and influence?
I think, yes, I think people are born with like innate leadership skills. Like there's just that person that kind of like has that in him. And you can, like you said, the it factor or the alpha dog, or yeah, I do believe that. But I also think it can be a learned skill too. Communication was a skill that I had to learn, 7th grade dropout. I still to this day can barely write a proper sentence. Like my grammatic errors are crazy. Like thank God for ChatGPT. So, but that doesn't deter me from influence, or that doesn't deter me from learning the skill. And how does one learn leadership skills? I mean, I think sales is a big part of it, right? But like public speaking is another path that one could take for leadership, because essentially a leader has the ability to influence many people, one to many. And once you're able to influence somebody, change somebody's thoughts, change somebody's perspectives, change somebody's behaviors, you are now mastering the skill. And that is what leadership is all about, right? And leadership is also leading by example. So trust the tongue in somebody's shoe versus the tongue in somebody's mouth. So yeah, it's important to be able to communicate good, but then are you following up with the actions that match what you're saying?
I've
And so
never
there's
heard that analogy of the tongue in someone's shoe and the tongue in someone's mouth. So good. I'm definitely going to use that.
Take it, bro. Take it. That's a good one. I stole it from somebody too, I'm sure. I didn't make that up. Nah.
That's so good. I want to transition and talk about then your rise in business where we level up. I mean, it's not a small company. It's not 7 figures. It's not 8 figures. This is a 9-figure company. What's the valuation at right now if you're, open to share?
Yeah, sure. So I'm actually going through a process now. They're evaluating everything based on this year's earnings. They have us pegged at 250 plus. We are literally doubling in size as we speak. So, I mean, my thought was like anything with a 4 in front of it, I'm doing backflips. I mean, God, the fact that I'm even having this conversation is insane. February 20th, I was at Tony Robbins' event and we were at a finance seminar, and he goes through this process where it's like, what number do you need to have to live the life that you want to live? And my number was 20 million at that point. And it's crazy because fast forward 5 years and I'm 10x that. So it's like, what? And I'm not 100% of the business, so that's not 10x me personally, but just the idea of it is just like absolutely insane, bro.
So what keeps you going? Because that's the conversation we have, a lot, especially with our high level guys, they have enough money to do for whatever period of time. But then when do you stop? When do you know? Like you mentioned something with a 4 in it.
So for me, the group that I'm involved with, that number would give every single person involved a number that would exceed something that they've ever thought. And I don't want to be too greedy and risk not being able to have this event. And so for me, like I'm walking around on borrowed time. So like if this is what God wants in store, if this is what God has in store for me, then I believe the path to getting this done is going to be seamless. It's going to feel organic, and I'm going to be super grateful. So I don't think it matters. Like, the 4, it just came up for me. And I think that number kind of gets everybody where they need to be from an investor standpoint, from the sweat equity perspective. And then I believe that leaves enough meat on the bone. So then when private equity does come in, they're excited because for them to take it to the next level won't be as difficult. And so I think those are some of the factors that are really playing into it and why I said that.
Talk to me about something they've learned from, the private equity world. Because a lot of people starting off, they're just like, oh my gosh, that's such a big number and it's so far out, which for me, until I was exposed to so many people that's just like a normal number to them.
That's
I always
so
thought
crazy.
That's so far out. Like it's nuts.
It's crazy, bro. Yeah, I'm like a peon compared to like what the hell is going on out there, really. One thing I've learned about private equity, man, is that they're dollars and cents, bro. Like they don't, like all that passion and like they'll speak to it, but like they're bottom line guys. Like they're numbers guys. If it doesn't make dollars, it does not make sense. Like I know for a fact when they come into this organization, they're definitely cleaning house because I probably have a lot of meat on the bones. So I'm sure they're probably looking at my stuff and like, damn, we're going to be able to make some good money on this one because I'm paying for shit that I'm probably overpaying for people. I like this person. Like you stay in the closet, I'll just keep paying you because I like you. I mean, there's definitely some of that shit happening, but that's been a little bit of my experience about private equity.
Let's take a step back. Going from six.
And let me add this. I think this is very important. They win, right? They make decisions based on winning. So when they're buying because they believe they're going to win.
Let's take a step back. Going from that 6 to 7 figures, what did that look like? And what was the obstacle you had to overcome to, jump to that hurdle?
Yeah, bro, it was me. I was the chokehold. The leader is the chokehold, and it goes back to leadership. It goes back to influence. It goes back to like who you're being with your organization. I wasn't able to have healthy conflict resolution. I wasn't able to inspire and motivate my team. I lost a lot of talented employees because I didn't know how to inspire them and motivate them and challenge them to the next level. And I'm sure you guys talk a lot about this. Like let's use like A, B, and C players. Like an A player is hungry. An A player wants to grow. An A player wants to go to the next level. Well, if you don't have a path for that A player to get to the next level, they're just going to leave. And so really creating an environment, like if I didn't scale, I wouldn't have the team that I have now. So like I had to make a decision to scale my business, and I had to give a path for my people to grow and to be inspired. But that meant me changing on how I was showing up, how I was leading them, like how I was influencing them, how I was inspiring in them. And so that was really the transition for me.
How were you able to do that? Was it a coach? Was it a, mastermind that you were part of? Was it a, mentor?
Yeah, just like you, bro, like putting high level people in a room and learning from their behaviors, their thought process, how they practice life. I mean, Napoleon Hill talks about this mastermind principle. And when like-minded individuals come together, they're in harmony and they have the same goal, it elevates people, like the basic understanding of competition, right? Like if I'm competing and inspiring to get better, then we're going to keep pushing each other to get better. And so, yeah, bro, at this point, I've probably have done, including the ones that I've taught, I've probably done about 180 events at this point. So either teaching, leading, being a part of it. I've done like 30 Tony Robbins events. I've done 30 David Traub events. I've done like 60 of my own events. I've probably have spoken at like 50 places. And then I've done a bunch of Dr. Joe Dispenza. I did a Myron Golden mastermind. And so it's just a part of my life now.
That's amazing. Talk to me about you starting now, kind of like the passion project where you're like, man, I've overcame a lot of things. I think people can relate to my story. I want to share that and really impact a lot of people's lives, which is actually crazy because you're impacting people's lives in your business, but then also impacting people's lives in your passion project as well, which is incredible. So talk to me about why you decided to do that. I think it was in 2021.
Yeah. So teaching my team how to scale to where we got to, I realized that I acquired a skill, and I was like, wow, like this is pretty cool. Like, and then I start going out there and I'm sharing stages with other like quote unquote, like the top American business coach. And I'm like, I run circles around this dude. And then I find out like he never really owned and scaled a business, and he was just an executive coach for 30 years and whatever. So I'm like, okay.
You said, hold on, Ryan. People get put on stages, but don't get verified? This is crazy.
Yeah, bro. I'm thinking like I'm a nobody, dog. I'm like, I'm over scared to death and shit, like insecure. And he starts to speak, and I'm like, wait, give me that mic, man. What the hell are you talking about, dog?
What company did you actually run?
Right. So I'm like, come on, man. Yeah, there's a lot of fakes out there. And so then, yeah, just being around people and like realizing like I have a gift, and I understand today, like the gift of living is giving. And you mentioned like one of the challenges with entrepreneurs is like, or the very successful ones is like they have everything. And I think that's where people fall short, right? Like I have developed a practice to fall in love with the process of like who I'm becoming rather than the destination, right? So like every decision I make, it's like, okay, how is this going to challenge me to become a better version of myself? How is this going to challenge me to help other people? And so I have fallen in love with the practice of becoming rather than like where I think I'm going to go.
Talk to me about the first couple times you were on stage. Were you nervous?
Of course, bro. So it's so funny because like, I have a big energy. So like that was like my go-to. So like very loud and like very drill sergeant-y, like I remember like, and like my buddy Nick, like he'll make fun of me and we'll joke. And he's like, yo, you're just yelling at him. I'd be like, just get out there. And like after about 7 minutes of yelling, like the nerves went away and I was able to like kind of slow down. And so now the nerves aren't as bad, but they still come up.
And then you got connected with a bunch of guys from Aspire, correct?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
So Alex Smith, really, man, she's a rock star.
Shout out to Alex.
Yeah, shout out to Alex for sure. She's a rock star, bro. I met her through Tim Story. So I spoke on stage with Tim Story. Tim Story connected me with her. And then her and Nick were doing things together. Nick was speaking for them. So I just reached out to her and we just stayed in contact. And then she invited me to do a panel in Atlanta on stage. And I did really well. And she invited me back and I did really well. And she got me on the main stage. I did really well. And then they put me on 2 more main stages. And so now, she helps me develop high-level relationships and she connects me with like-minded people like yourself. And so she's a rock star. Eddie and Andrew, it's incredible what they've built, dude, like overnight success. And I think it's, my hat goes off to them guys because I know what they're doing is not easy and I know it's very expensive. It's a challenge. And the fact that they're doing it is awesome. And they're bringing a lot of incredible people together. And I believe when incredible people come together, magic happens. friends. And so my hat goes off to them for that too.
Yeah, they literally put in like the Avengers together for these
Yeah, bro.
tours.
Yeah, bro, for sure.
Give me a good Aspire story, man, because I know you guys all get it together. It's not just speaking on stage; stuff's happened backstage. Like, what's a fun Aspire story, or just like a conversation that you had that was a light bulb moment?
So I mean, like backstage, they got these like really cool like hallways where it's like pink, like neon lights and shit. So like, you know, I was backstage doing some goofy shit, like dancing, and like I got caught and stuff, and like Alex caught me so I was being goofy about that, and I was like sneaking around and shit, and I was probably going some place I probably shouldn't have gone. That mischief is still in me sometimes, you know. Like I get these ideas and I'm like sneaking around and shit. I think a cool one for me was they put an event together in Miami. They rented a house, and it was just lights out. And you know, I mean, listen, dude, they go hard. You know, like that's the truth. Like again, like I've never met anybody that's successful that doesn't have that it factor that just shows up and just knows how to burn it down. And so that's what those guys have been able to do for sure. But I don't have anything that's like, I mean, I don't know. Like I guess a cool thing. I don't really have anything. I mean, like my first Aspire tour.
Who's some people that you met that you're like, oh man, I never thought I'd be in the same room with this person, and like you just kind of were like, oh, this is awesome.
Well, so I introduced Kevin O'Leary. That was pretty funny. That was cool. Yeah, so they invited me to Miami. They're like, why don't you introduce Kevin O'Leary? So that was like their first like intro to see me on stage. That was pretty cool. And I dressed in Givenchy all white Miami Vice, swagged out. Like I had all white drip head to toe, and I had the tank top, the white tank top, so you could like see my tattoos and stuff. And I'm like inviting Kevin O'Leary to the stage. He was like, what the hell? I had like a whole theme and shit. He was like, the place went nuts, bro. That was really cool. My first Aspire, I ended up meeting Miss Georgia. That was pretty cool. I'm like there hanging out, and all of a sudden I'm like, wait, and I saw her crown. I'm like, wait, Miss Georgia? And then she's like competing for Miss America and all that crap. So that was pretty cool.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
like
around those
Alex
type of
Rodriguez.
that room. Oh,
Yeah,
Alex
I mean, dude.
Rodriguez.
Yeah, Alex Rodriguez. I didn't really get a chance to talk to him. I saw him. Dude, this is like the worst question to ask me because I'm so bad with names, bro. So I'm like screwed, but there's so many people I met I can't even freaking remember. You know, Dan Fleischman's dope. I mean, I know you know Dan. Yeah, he's cool. Him and I have been kind of kicking it recently. Not too crazy, but just texting a little bit here and there. But it's just a dope community, bro. Just like-minded, high-level people that just want to win.
So let me ask you this. Let's say you have an exit with We Level Up. What does that look like in 5 years after We Level Up is more so you're not involved as much anymore with that?
Yeah, so the first thing is I'm going to take a portion of my earnings and position the money to go to work to help non-for-profits and charity, because I believe if there's not an infrastructure in place, like a solid management team, the money will just go to waste. So I want to make sure that I can support these non-for-profits and good people and good organizations to be able to double and I mean, look at these college endowments, bro, billions of dollars. They're just, bro, they're freaking making so much damn money. So like in my mind, I think about like, well, if I'm going to be involved, then I want to position this money where it's like making money so you guys can go on forever, you know? And so that's the first thing is really just to take that. You know, I'm going to drive around to every single one of my childhood friends that was always there for me and give them something like 100 grand, 250 grand, something, just like sit down and tell them I love them and open up a backpack and be like, here you go, bro. So those will probably be my first two things. And then honestly, bro, just put the money away as an investment and really just turn up on developing relationships and creating impact. Yeah, dude. And I want to have a family. I'm 40. So the woman I'm dating that I told you about before we got on, she's awesome, dude. Super sweet. I really feel like she's an angel sent to me. So I believe things progress with her, eventually have a family, raise some kids, just have some really cool friends, continue to strengthen my relationship with God. I think that's very important for me for sure. And just have fun, bro. Like I spent a lot of my time in my life like worrying about what people think, walking on eggshells, like feeling insecure, like worrying about this, worrying about that. I'm not spending the rest of my life worrying about any of that shit, bro. Like I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to really enjoy this because dude, who knows? I might not make it till tomorrow, So like if I'm feeling bondage every day, then what the hell's the point,
Dude, I'm excited for you, man. First of all, like just even connecting over, what is this, Riverside for our podcast. I feel your energy. I just feel like this very authentic guy, man. And it comes through very naturally with you, man. And I'm excited to, continue this friendship that we got now. Shout out to Alex again.
Yeah. Thank you, Alex. Rockstar.
Real quick, I want to ask you as we wrap this up. I think a lot of guys, especially guys, actually women too. I just hopped off a call with another, very high level female entrepreneur, and relationships is something that's kind of tough. And so I'm curious to ask you, like, what was your thought process on relationships? Do you wish that you would have maybe looked a little earlier for someone, or are you like, man, I want to just put my head down, and then once I'm at a certain, maybe stability level? Or what was your whole thought process for relationships? Because I think so many entrepreneurs is kind of like put it to the side and then look up and be like, man, I didn't think about that at all. And I want a family, I want kids.
So I think the kryptonite for any entrepreneur is like better, more, next, right? Like that's the mindset. Like, oh, I did really good with this, but I could do better. And sometimes that bleeds over in relationships. And that was definitely a challenge for me, especially growing up with my mom being abused and not having any self-respect. So that kind of bled over into me as well. So for a very long time, it was challenging for me to like really appreciate women the way that I do now. When my last engagement broke up in 2019, I took 5 or 6 years off. Like it was about 6 years by myself, bro. I just worked on me. And what I've found in life is like, once you are okay with yourself, with where you're at, you're going to be okay with yourself with who you're becoming. Like if you don't love the version of you now, you're never going to love the version of you with more money. Like the money isn't going to make you love yourself. The relationship isn't going to make you love yourself. Nothing is going to make you love yourself. Like if you don't appreciate yourself and have love for yourself and have compassion for yourself now, that's not going to happen in the future either. So the idea for me, and I think the turning point for me is like, I just did so much work on myself that I don't honestly, like who I'm with doesn't matter. Like I'm the creator of my life. Like I can make this situation however I want it to be. Obviously there's like criterias and specific things that I think are important for me to have that I want, like my wish list. And this woman has it for me. So like I'm content enough for myself where like I don't need to look past her. I don't need to think that there's something better because there's always somebody prettier. There's going to be always somebody that's a little younger. There's going to be always somebody that might fit the mold a little bit better. But that's just me not being okay with me. And I think that's the season of life that I'm in. And that's why I believe I'm ready, because like I'm not looking over the hedges, like I'm not lying to myself. And that's the problem is most of these guys out here and women are lying to themselves and they're in relationships they shouldn't be in. They're in relationships they don't want to be in. Their head's saying they should go, but their gut's telling them not to go because they're too insecure and they're staying stuck in a relationship being miserable. I didn't do that. I was alone for 6 years, bro. I was like, I don't want to be with you. Like I'm not dating. Like, and that gave me so much confidence and it created an environment where like I started to attract a different level of woman, and so then I met somebody that was like at peace and content with herself and I'm at peace and content with myself and it's just easy. Like it's just like our conversation here. It's like easy.
It's a mic drop, Ryan. Man, how do people connect with you? And before someone connects with you, which I say this on every single podcast, we're a go-giving community, meaning we'll never say, hey, can I pick your brain? Can I take you out to coffee? Like, no, we want to provide some kind of value for you, Ryan, before we ask for anything. So what's something could be big or small, could be, hey, follow me on Instagram or, say 2 things that you got out of this podcast. What's something someone can do for you of some kind of value before they ask?
Yeah. So I think what would be near dear to my heart is we launched a non-for-profit called We Level Up Academy. And we are taking all of our teachings and lessons into schools and teaching young people how to build confidence, how to have emotional integrity, how to step into leadership, be an influencer, communicate properly. And so, donating to that non-for-profit would be incredible, or even donating your time. If there's time that you have, if you're credentialed in certain areas and you're a professional and you could bring a skill to these young people, we would love the support.
Love it, man. And then how do people find you? Obviously, it'll be in the show description, but Instagram, is that the best way?
Yeah, best way, Ryan Zofay, Ryan.Zofay on Instagram is the easiest way to find me. My team's responding immediately. So anything that you need from me, we'll be able to get back and get in contact with you.
Love it. Ryan Zofay, Jesse Ray, Growth House Podcast.
Yeah, you crush it, bro. I just got you just bring it out of people, dog. You just know how to pull that energy out.
Oh, man, I appreciate that. I'm going to clip that up.
Yeah.